While Chinese PLA is aggressive on India's line of actual control and not ready to retreat, Chinese military on Wednesday fired 2 missiles, including an aircraft carrier killer Dongfeng 26B missile, into the South China Sea. Chinese government attributed their action as retribution to warn US military after it spotted US Air Force spy plane U-2 entering restricted airspace during the live-fire Chinese military drills for the second day in a row. The Cold War era spy plane can read newspaper headlines from a height of 70,000 feet. Yes, that's true. I would discuss U-2 reconnaissance aircraft in detail in this story. Meanwhile, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar, in an interview to Rediff website, had admitted that Sino-Indian crisis is most serious since 1962 war. He said that the ability of India and China to work together could determine the Asian sanctuary, but their difficulties in doing so may well undermine it. Dr. S. Jaishankar's latest book, titled The Indian Way: Strategies for an Uncertain World, is scheduled for release on September 7th. On 25th August, he presented a copy of the book to PM Modi. I am giving the link of EM Dr. S. Jaishankar's full interview in the description box. Meanwhile, if you are new on national defense, may I appeal you to please subscribe my channel and do press the bell icon to get notified of our new videos. So without any further ado, let's get it started. Hello and welcome. My name is Shailesh Kumar and you are watching National Defense. The Chinese behavior is turning more hegemonistic, expansionist and all-pervasive, not only at Indian border, but Chinese aggression also reflects in South China Sea. Now, China has fired 2 missiles in South China Sea to deter US military. One of the missiles, a Dongfeng 26B, the aircraft carrier killer, was launched from the northwest province of Qinghai, while the other, a TF-21D, was fired from Zhejiang province. Both were fired between the area Hainan province and the Paracel Island. Beijing claimed that U-2 reconnaissance aircraft disrupted its live-fire military drills and termed the action a naked act of provocation. Tensions between the two giants are mounting as US spy plane enter PLA no-fly zone on 25th August, Chinese military drills for a second day in a row. Another US reconnaissance aircraft, RC-135S, on Wednesday flew near a separate and ongoing PLA drill in the South China Sea. After US spy plane was spotted for the second time on Wednesday, China fired 2 missiles, including an aircraft carrier killer, into the South China Sea as an act of warning to the United States. Earlier, Pacific Air Force, demonstrating air power, bomber and fighter crew assigned and deployed to Pacific Air Forces, launched 4 B-1 Lancers, 2 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers and 4 F-15C Eagles, and conducted bomber task force missions simultaneously with joint and allied partners within the Indo-Pacific region over the course of 24 hours on August 17. Pacific Air Force said these missions show the ability of Air Force Global Strike Command to deliver lethal ready long-range strike options to geographic combatant commanders anytime, anywhere. Meanwhile, US Defense Secretary Dr. Mark T. Esper arrived in Hawaii, beginning a trip to explain China's vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific and to honor World War II generation that made a peaceful region possible. The Secretary will visit Hawaii, Palau and Guam. Earlier, Secretary Esper wrote in Wall Street Journal that US was accelerating its national defense strategy. Issued in 2018, the National Defense Strategy says that the return of great power competition with China and Russia is the main danger to the United States and the world. It is in view of this that the United States on Wednesday blacklisted 24 Chinese companies and targeted a number of individuals it said were part of construction and military actions related to disputed islands in the South China Sea. The US Commerce Department said that 24 companies played a role in helping the Chinese military construct and militarize the internationally condemned artificial islands in the South China Sea. China says US air activity over the South China Sea in particular has been significant. In early August, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, in an interview with the state-run Xinhua news agency, accused Washington of sending 2,000 military flights over the South China Sea in the first half of this year. That would be a rate of almost 11 aircraft a day. However, US officials would not confirm those numbers. CNN reported, quoting Major Randy Reddy, spokesperson for the US Indo-Pacific Command, there has been no significant change to our military operations in or around the South China Sea, though the frequency and scope of our operations vary based on the current and operating environment. The US has a persistent military presence and routinely operates throughout the Indo-Pacific, including the waters and airspace surrounding the South China Sea, just as we have for more than a century. Tensions between China and US have also been increasing on the subject of Taiwan. In August, US Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar visited Taipei. He was the highest ranking US official to go there in a decade. During his visit, the sale of 66 US F-16 was finalized, and that it People's Republic of China. During Secretary Azar's visit, PLS sent fighter jets across the median line, the Taiwan Strait, and that separate from the Taiwan from the mainland. Only third time it purposely done so since 1999. On the alleged trespass by US spy plane U-2, Chinese Defense Ministry said the trespass severely affected China's normal exercises and training activities and violated the rules of behavior for air and maritime safety between the China and United States, as well as the relevant international practices. The US action would easily have resulted in misjudgments and even accidents. 2 exercises were underway Tuesday in Northern Theater Command. China launched 3 military exercises on Monday alone in Pacific waters, from the South China Sea in the south to the Bohai Sea in the north. Meanwhile, another exercise was finishing Wednesday in the Yellow Sea. The past month has seen more military exercises conducted by the PLA than any previous month in many years. CNN reported citing US Pacific Air Forces Command a U-2 flight, but said it did not violate any rules. A U-2 sortie was conducted in the Indo-Pacific area of operations and was within the accepted international rules and regulations governing aircraft flights. Pacific Air Force personnel will continue to fly and operate anywhere international law allows at the time and tempo of our choosing. Military analysts expressed doubt over Beijing's claims. Flying over rarely if ever happens anymore. The US Cold War spy plane equipment is so sophisticated that it did not need to get so close to monitor the Chinese exercises. The unarmed U-2 is one of the oldest aircraft in the US inventory. The first model, developed by Lockheed Martin to monitor the military buildup of the Soviet Union early in the Cold War, flew in the 1950s. Those early models flew at 70,000 feet to stay out of range of anti-aircraft missiles. But while height was the U-2's early advantage, it has received substantial upgrades in the decades since to keep that distance too. Now let's talk about U-2 history and its development. I am presenting following facts citing spy aircraft manufacturer Lockheed Martin. The U-2 is also known as Dragon Lady. On May 1, 1954, despite the breezy spring weather, leaders across Washington DC's intelligence community found themselves breaking out in a cold, panicked sweat. Over the skies of Red Square in Moscow, the Soviet Union had just introduced its newest bomber, the Meshtcheb M4, ominously nicknamed Hammer, during a Russian May Day celebration. Coming on the heels of the Soviet Union's successful detonation of a hydrogen bomb the previous summer, the unveiling fueled a growing fear that Russia had not only eclipsed the West in terms of both nuclear weapon and bomber production, but was gearing up for a potential attack on the US as well. The US, which had been allied with the Soviet Union during World War II, only to see it transform literally overnight into its fiercest Cold War enemy. Penetrating the Iron Curtain had proven far more challenging than US intelligence agencies had anticipated. The vast size of Soviet Union made it difficult to survey, and when surveillance aircraft were sent to the edges of Russian airspace, they were often shot down by Soviet forces. President D. Eisenhower needed a new eyes in the sky. He would get them through the Lockheed Martin U-2 high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft. The initial designs for what would become the U-2 were created by Lockheed engineer guru Clarence Kelly Johnson in 1953. Working under the cloak of a secretary in the famed Sunk Works Division, Johnson envisioned a light, high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft capable of flying above the reach of Soviet anti-aircraft fire. The U-2 borrowed its sleek looks from the profile of a traditional sailplane. Its long tapered wing, one-third of the weight of what was normal at the time, allowed it to fly missions covering a range of 3,000 miles and carry up to 700 pounds of the latest photo reconnaissance equipment to a staggering and unprecedented altitude of 70,000 feet. Unfortunately, by the time Johnson could provide a full proposal to US officials in the summer of 1954, President Eisenberg and CIA Director Allen Dulles had already signed off on two competitive designs for a high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft. Johnson was undeterred. He knew he had the better plane, so he offered up to a deal that no general would refuse. Not only that, assume complete responsibility for any maintenance and service, an entirely new concept in aviation, but he would also have a U-2 in the air in just 8 months. Incredibly, Johnson almost met his own impossible deadline, delivering the first U-2 for a test flight on July 29th. President Eisenhower now had his secret weapon, and he was determined to use it to prevent the Cold War from turning red hot. By early 1956, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev had declared that his country was making missiles like sausages, and that would soon have a hydrogen bomb capable of striking any point in the world. Any uninvited guest flying over Russia, he also warned, would be shot down with impunity. Beginning in the summer of 1956, Lockheed's U-2 would prove him wrong. On July 4th, Hervé Stockmann flew a U-2 from Wiesbaden, West Germany, deep into the heart of Soviet Union, capturing detailed photos of airfields, factories and shipyards previously unattainable by any other aircraft. The plane was tracked by Soviet radar, but Stockmann's U-2 flew beyond the reach of Soviet interceptors and anti-aircraft fire, returning home with history-altering intelligence. U-2 flights revealed that the Soviets were more concerned with building tractors than tanks. Russia's ability to produce high-end bombers was unimpressive at best. Its missile, while numbers were better suited for intermediate attacks against Europe than a long-range attack on the United States, with most being unready to fire at all. Thanks to the U-2, Eisenhower had the information he needed to avoid a massive arms buildup and a potential war. It was not only a matter of time before advancing Russian anti-aircraft technology caught up with the spy plane. On May 1, 1960, a Soviet surface-to-air missile struck near a U-2 piloted by Francis Gary Powers while on a reconnaissance mission over Russia. Powers was sentenced to 10 years in a Soviet labor camp on August 17, 1960, but would be released 2 years later in exchange for spy Rudolf Abel. The U-2, however, would continue to be a critical asset for US intelligence agencies, especially during the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was a U-2 manned by Major Richard Heiser that captured photos of Soviet missiles installations in western Cuba on October 14, 1962, revealing the Russians were capable of launching a nuclear strike against the US. Over the course of next 13 days, U-2 flights would keep President Kennedy abreast of Soviet activity in Cuba, buying the administration enough time to broker a deal with the Soviets. Russia would dismantle its weapons in Cuba in exchange for a pledge by the United States not to invade the island, pulling both sides from the rink of nuclear war. Initially projected to have an operational life of just 2 years, the U-2 would go on to see services in every subsequent American war, while showing remarkable versatility as a non-military aircraft. When equipped with a wide variety of sensors, the U-2 has morphed into everything from a high-tech NASA platform for conducting physics experiments to high-altitude tool for tracking the migration of destructive spruce bark beetles through the forest of Alaska. Today, U-2 are used as aerial eavesdropping devices. U-2 survey dirt patterns for sign of makeshift mines and IED over Iraq and Afghanistan, making these dynamic high flyers as effective today as they were nearly 60 years ago. So now you would understand why China fears US spy plane U-2. Hope you would like this video. If yes, give it a thumbs up and share it. If you have not yet subscribed National Defense, please do so right away, and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified of our new videos. You may kindly leave your feedback in the comment box of the video. If you want to suggest any story idea, you may do so by writing in the comment box. Thanks for watching National Defense. Stay safe, stay healthy. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram. Subscribe and press bell icon. Never miss another update.